There are certain nights in the history of science fiction cinema that never made it into promotional reels, behind the scenes, documentaries, or official studio archives nights when the experience inside the theater seemed to turn strange in ways no one could explain. These anomalies didn't come from faulty projectors or defective sound systems. They were quieter, subtler, slipping in at the edge of perception, a sudden tightening in the air, a flicker that didn't belong, a moment when the image on screen seemed to brush against something beyond its frame. Witnesses from these premieres spoke of sensations that felt too coordinated to be coincidence, entire groups feeling the floor tilt beneath them for the span of a heartbeat, sudden bursts of dizziness that vanished the moment a scene cut away, an untraceable pulse in the soundtrack that seemed to bypass the ears and press directly against the chest, and the most unsettling reports of all those who insisted they remembered shots, fragments, or whisper-brief visuals that do not exist in any version released afterward. Projection notes from those nights often contradict the experiences of the people in the seats. While audiences swore the brightness swelled, the color shifted, or the audio bent into uncanny frequencies, technicians logged no malfunctions. Yet studios quietly replaced reels, altered mixes, softened certain sequences, or removed small transitions that tested poorly, though their internal memos show far more urgency than their public statements ever suggested. What remains now are scattered documents and recollections that refuse to line up cleanly, a mosaic of accounts pointing to a set of premieres where something in the presentation felt alive, as if the film itself were aware of its audience for a fleeting moment. Tonight, we reopen those scattered records and investigate the screenings where sci-fi cinema briefly crossed into the inexplicable, where audiences witnessed moments that never returned in any subsequent cut. Fact 1. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977, original premiere cut. The original premiere of Close Encounters of the Third Kind left an imprint on its audience that no subsequent cut has ever replicated. In the film's opening desert sequence, viewers reported an abrupt chill, a crisp current of cold air that passed through the room despite stable heating and no ventilation shifts. Ushers later confirmed the temperature never changed, yet the sensation was reported consistently across multiple rows. Once the film entered Roy Neary's home, the reports grew stranger. During the iconic flickering light sequence, viewers described quick-moving shadows skirting the edges of their vision shapes that darted away the moment someone tried to look directly at them. Staff inspected the auditorium afterward and confirmed there were no reflective surfaces or malfunctioning lights capable of creating such movement. The most disturbing recollection emerged from the Devil's Tower approach. Several attendees claimed to witness a soft, blurred humanoid outline standing momentarily near the mountain's base, a shape that dissolved almost instantly. No existing version of the film contains such an image, and production archives hold no record of cut footage resembling it. Some viewers describe the moment as a fragment from a hidden scene, or a glimpse of a parallel assembly of the film that was never released. Within days, Columbia Pictures adjusted color timing, edited several shots, and reworked elements of the soundtrack. Official statements blamed pacing concerns. Internal memos, however, referenced unspecified reactions of concern. To this day, the premiere cut is believed to have contained a brief, atmospheric anomaly, an apparition of sorts that vanished with every subsequent revision. Fact 2. The Matrix Reloaded, 2003, first digital premiere. The inaugural digital cinema premiere of The Matrix Reloaded was intended to showcase the precision of the new projection format, yet the audience reported disturbances that were anything but precise. During the freeway chase, several attendees noted an uncanny duplication effect, a faint ghost of the image sliding for a frame before instantly snapping into place. The monitoring feed in the projection booth showed no such drift, leaving both technicians and viewers without an explanation. In the architect's white chamber, the oddities intensified. Multiple attendees reported an anticipatory awareness of dialogue, knowing lines before they were spoken, without having read or heard them beforehand. Projectionists noted a subtle flickering sensation in the room itself, unrelated to the screen or projector, as if the environment momentarily lost its dimensional stability. Several audience members described an audio phenomenon that defied conventional explanation, a half-second pre-echo, where a fragment of dialogue seemed to arrive slightly before the spoken line. Sound engineers found no corresponding irregularity in the playback logs. Warner Brothers quietly re-encoded the film following the premiere, officially to correct color drift. Internal reports, however, reference the removal of several unstable high-frequency peaks that behaved unpredictably in large auditoriums. The premiere version has never resurfaced, and those in attendance insist that something in its digital structure felt subtly off, like a system glitch masquerading as a finished movie. Fact 3. Interstellar 2014, Early IMAX Premiere Print. The early IMAX premiere of Interstellar became the subject of quiet conversations among projectionists for reasons no press release ever acknowledged. This near-final print, screened before audio refinements were complete, generated sensations that left viewers visibly unsettled. During the cornfield pursuit, several attendees experienced an abrupt internal jolt, an expanding pressure inside the chest that seemed to synchronize with the engine roars and bass-heavy impacts. IMAX technicians insisted the sub-frequency levels were within safe limits, yet those in the seats claimed the vibrations felt strangely organic, as if the air itself briefly contracted. The wormhole sequence deepened this unease. Viewers reported a bending shimmer skimming the edges of the theater's ceiling lights, as if the room's geometry were subtly folding toward the screen. A few insisted they saw a faint, almost face-like distortion ripple across the wormhole surface, a fleeting, spectral flicker absent from all surviving versions of the film. A cryptic note in the projection log mentioned irregular spatial flex, though no technical cause was ever identified. The Tesseract sequence caused the most widespread reaction. Several attendees felt an overpowering surge of déjà vu, describing the uncanny sense that they were remembering the sequence as it unfolded in real time. One viewer claimed he recognized specific camera movements milliseconds before they occurred. When asked how, he simply said that the scene felt unfinished, more exposed. IMAX replaced the screening print within days, and parts of the low-frequency track were recalibrated. Officially, these were normal finishing touches. Unofficially, attendees maintain that the premiere version carried a resonant pulse, something perceptible only once, during that early presentation. Fact 4. Tron 1982, Limited Early Screening. The early preview of Tron introduced audiences not only to revolutionary digital imagery, but also to sensations that defied the expected limits of cinema technology at the time. As the film's neon-lined digital world unfolded, viewers described difficulty maintaining visual focus during the light cycle chase. The movement felt unnervingly fluid, slipping past the eye's ability to track motion naturally. A few people experienced a brief swirl of vertigo, as though the screen expanded outward in a way the physical room couldn't contain. Projectionists double-checked the equipment and found the reels running flawlessly. Yet some attendees insisted they saw subtle shifts in the shapes of objects within the grid, colors flickering, edges warping for a frame or two before stabilizing. These distortions do not appear in any preserved version. Several viewers also noted a sudden metallic taste in their mouths during specific pulse-heavy beats of the soundtrack, a detail that surfaced in multiple independent accounts. The eeriest claim came from those sitting near the front row. During the sequence within the MCP chamber, a faint, vaguely humanoid shape seemed to hover within the red glow. This presence does not correspond to any character or effects element and has never been found in any production records. After the screening, Disney made small adjustments to contrast, color, sharpness, and sound balance. Internal notes referenced spectral inconsistencies, though they offered no explanation for the sensations reported that night. Some attendees are convinced that the premiere print of Tron displayed a level of visual intensity, almost a raw, unrefined sharpness that was softened once the film moved into final release. Fact 5. Event Horizon 1997, First Public Premiere. The initial public screening of Event Horizon created an atmosphere so oppressive that attendees struggled to articulate what they felt. Before the extensive studio-mandated cuts, the early version included sequences that amplified the film's already nightmarish tone. During the gravity drive activation, viewers reported a piercing, needle-like sensation behind the eyes, synchronized perfectly with the machine's rhythmic pulses. It wasn't just noise. Many described it as a direct neural jolt, a spark of static firing inside the skull. As the early hallucination montage played, several people abruptly left the theater, citing a metallic scraping sound they believed was emanating from the walls rather than the speakers. Projectionists confirmed no such noise existed in the audio channels. Others noticed that the room seemed unnaturally dim, as if the screen's light was struggling to break through an invisible filter. Most unsettling was the shared sighting of a humanoid silhouette standing motionless at the far end of a corridor in one of the ship sequences. It appeared for less than a second, yet it was described with such consistency across viewers that it became the subject of discussion among the screening staff. No trace of this figure exists in any version that survives today. Shortly after, Paramount ordered large sections of the film removed and adjusted its soundscape. Officially, these changes improved pacing. Unofficially, those who attended believe the edits targeted the overwhelming, disquieting energy present during that original premiere, a version that has effectively vanished. Fact 6. War of the Worlds, 2005, early industry screening. The first private industry showing of War of the Worlds produced reactions that startled even the technicians overseeing it. When the alien tripod broke through the pavement for the first time, audience members felt an intense, chest-deep vibration, an impact that seemed to resonate from within rather than through the speakers. Some described it as a sudden inward collapse of air, as if the entire auditorium tightened for a heartbeat. IMAX-style sub-bass can cause physical responses, but what viewers felt that night appeared to exceed the system's measured output. Sound engineers monitoring the room reported a quick flutter in one of the rear channels that their equipment didn't register, a distortion perceived only by those seated on the floor. Several viewers stood mid-scene, swaying as though the ground had lurched. A few left the screening, pale and nauseated, insisting the room shifted or tilted during the attack sequence. The most debated detail came from a brief interior shot inside the tripod's holding chamber. Multiple attendees claimed the image briefly doubled an almost transparent echo of the frame, overlaying the main picture for a split moment. No such effect is present in any archived version, and post-production staff maintained that the shot was fully locked long before the screening. Within days, the studio reduced the weight of certain low-end effects and smoothed some of the more aggressive bass cues. No public explanation was offered. Yet those who attended remained certain that the premiere print carried a physical intensity, something visceral and overwhelming that never appeared again in later releases. Fact 7. Solaris, 2002. The earliest screenings of Soderbergh's Solaris sparked responses that felt more psychological than sensory, yet they appeared in clusters large enough to raise eyebrows within the studio. Attendees described a sudden, overwhelming wave of familiarity during the initial walkthrough of the space station. Several insisted that they had seen the corridors before, either in dreams or in half-memories they could not fully place. One viewer even claimed he knew exactly when the camera would turn, despite never having encountered the scene. Audio oddities surfaced as well. During a quiet character exchange, the sound seemed to momentarily lose its dimensionality, not quieter, but thinner, as if the air itself had briefly evacuated. The effect lasted only seconds and did not appear on any monitored channel, puzzling both projection and audio staff. The moment that stirred the most confusion occurred when Kelvin first confronts Rhea. A number of viewers insisted her face looked slightly altered, different from the actress they recognized. Some said her expression changed in a way that didn't match what later appeared in the wide release. No archival print has revealed any such discrepancy. A few attendees also felt the eerie impression of being watched from the upper corners of the room, claiming the shadows in the ceiling seemed to deepen at oddly synchronized moments. This sensation vanished the instant the lights rose. Subtle rebalancing of color and sound took place after the preview screening, though no official explanation addressed what viewers experienced. Those who attended maintained that the premiere version of Solaris felt like a half-remembered dream, a film that shifted slightly in the moment it was perceived. Fact 8. The Abyss, 1989. During its initial showcase, The Abyss elicited reactions that suggested something within the audio-visual design resonated on a level beyond simple immersion. The underwater aesthetic, dim corridors, diffused lighting, and continuous low-frequency ambience created a pressure-like sensation that rippled through the room. Many attendees reported their equilibrium subtly shifting during the descent sequences, as though the theater were sinking in tandem with the on-screen submersible. The sequence featuring the sentient water tendril intensified these impressions. Some viewers claimed the liquid form appeared to distort just outside the screen's borders, as if it momentarily extended beyond the plane of the image. Projection staff double-checked the print alignment and found no deviations, yet the anomaly was described by several witnesses with remarkable consistency. A sudden chill swept across the back rows during the trench exploration, the exact moment the alien craft begins to activate. HVAC records showed no temperature change whatsoever. Later, during Lindsay's life or death sequence, 2 audience members fainted. They later recalled hearing whispered layers beneath the main audio, an element that isn't present in any version of the film. Following the premiere, Fox made small adjustments to tonal balance and softened several sustained frequencies. No public comment ever linked these alterations to the premiere's unusual reactions. Those who were present maintained that the original print carried a depth and enveloping tension that faded after the refinements. Fact 9. Contact 1997. The first early screening of Contact left a trail of impressions that could not be reconciled with the technical data recorded that night. During the film's vast opening pull through the cosmos, numerous viewers described a hollow, fluttering pressure deep in their chest, as if something inside them briefly shifted out of alignment. Some compared it to the gentle drop one feels during sudden altitude change, but more controlled, more deliberate. Equipment readings showed no environmental fluctuation, yet attendees insisted that the auditorium subtly tilted during that initial sequence. As the mysterious signal sequence unfolded, a strange pulsing vibration ran through the room, one that several people claimed felt patterned, almost intentional. Sound staff monitoring the screening reported nothing abnormal in the registered audio output, though later notes acknowledge irregular low-end modulation unaccounted for in the final mix. The moment that drew the most speculation occurred when Ellie examines the transport pod. Multiple viewers swore they observed a human-shaped outline reflected on the metal surface, too distinct to be a trick of light, too brief to capture. This detail appears in no cut of the film. Editors reviewing the claim insisted that no unusual composite layers were ever part of that scene. A handful of viewers left mid-screening due to pressure, headaches, and an inexplicable sense of being observed from behind. Warner Brothers made quiet refinements to deeper frequencies shortly afterward, though no release notes addressed the audience reactions. Those who witnessed the premiere remained certain that the earliest cut of Contact carried an underlying vibration, an unintentional signal that vanished with the updated sound master. Fact 10. Sphere, 1998. Early preview screenings of Sphere produced responses that seemed more physiological than emotional. The film's underwater laboratory, with its reflective architecture and dim gold-blue lighting, generated a persistent sensation of pressure for many viewers. Several attendees described their ears subtly popping during the Sphere's introduction, as if they were descending rapidly underwater, though the theater's acoustics were perfectly stable. During the hallucination scenes, multiple witnesses reported an intrusive metallic tone, sharp, surgery clean, cutting through the soundtrack in short bursts. Others felt a wave of cold move across the auditorium at the exact moment the Sphere begins reflecting psychological fears. Staff later checked the ventilation system and found no malfunction. The most contested moment involved viewers' memories of a reflective figure standing inside the Sphere, a human outline that seemed to look outward. While dozens recalled it, no such element exists in any theatrical or archival cut. Editors insisted no placeholder imagery or early effects tests would have produced that shape. Days after the previews, the studio subtly revised several low-frequency cues, claiming standard adjustments but offering no detailed reasoning. For those who attended the original screenings, the premiere version of Sphere felt alive, reactive, almost sentient, before those details slipped quietly out of the final release. Fact 11. The Black Hole, 1979. The debut of The Black Hole was expected to showcase Disney's ambition in visual effects, yet its premiere generated reactions that left both staff and attendees unsettled. The deep crimson glow surrounding the singularity caused several viewers to complain of dizziness during the long tracking shots, as though the auditorium were tilting forward in sync with the motion on screen. When the climax approached, projectionists noted a thin, sliding shimmer across the vortex sequence, an anomaly invisible on all equipment readouts, but clearly felt by those watching. Audience accounts grew stranger as the film progressed. Some viewers insisted they saw distorted human-like faces appear within the swirling red energy, fleeting impressions that vanished before the eye could confirm them. Others described the film's iconic score dipping into an odd, wavering pitch for a few seconds. Audio engineers later ran diagnostics and found no playback errors. Several people described a sudden jolt of dread during a sequence in which the ship approaches the gravitational boundary. A number claimed that, for a moment, they sensed a presence behind the projection beam, as if something unseen were observing the room. Following the premiere, Disney rebalanced sections of the mix and subtly corrected visual inconsistencies without issuing any statement. To this day, attendees claim that the first print possessed a density, a strange atmospheric pressure not present in later releases. Fact 12. THX 113-81971 Re-Release Premiere. During the restored re-release premiere of THX 1138, the audience encountered sensations that no calibration report could justify. The moment the film shifted into its blinding white expanse, several viewers described a drifting, weightless feeling like the physical space around them had dissolved into an endless, overexposed void. Some said the characters appeared suspended far beyond the screen's real depth, as if the projection surface had momentarily ceased to exist. The ambient hum beneath the dialogue also seemed to thicken, pressing faintly against the ribs, even though sound technicians found no abnormal frequency spikes. A handful of attendees insisted they detected faint whisper-like murmurs beneath the synthetic computer vocals, quick, unintelligible fragments that vanished before they could be processed. These sounds do not appear in any official master. Others commented on a bizarre unease during a prolonged surveillance scene, explaining that the shot made them feel watched from somewhere behind the auditorium rather than from the film itself. Technicians inspected the theater immediately afterward but found no reflective surfaces or light leaks. Within days, the studio quietly modified sections of the audio spectrum and lowered the brightness of certain transitions. No public acknowledgement was made regarding the odd reactions. Those who witnessed the re-release premiere remain convinced that its version of THX 1138 carried an intangible presence, something embedded between the frames that disappeared once the tweaks were applied. Fact 13. The Andromeda Strain 1971. The premiere of the Andromeda Strain unfolded with a tension that felt strangely physical. The sterile, overlit laboratory sets created an atmosphere that made the theater feel unnaturally cold. Viewers described a faint metallic taste rising at the back of their mouths during the organism examination sequence. Others reported the sensation of static lightly crawling across their skin, as though invisible particles drifted through the room. Projection logs from one location record a sudden resonant vibration during a long corridor shot, a fluctuation heard by the audience but not detected by the equipment. It was during that same screening that multiple viewers insisted they witnessed a brief shot of a contaminated lab rat shaking violently before an alarm sounded. This moment appears in no version of the film, not in the theatrical cut, not in the work prints, not in deleted footage. Within days of the premiere, the studio altered color levels and recalibrated parts of the soundtrack. They attributed these changes to intensity management, though no statement addressed the collective recollection of the missing scene. Those who were there continue to claim that the premiere contained a fragment, an unsettling sliver of imagery that disappeared in every subsequent release. Fact 14. Altered States 1980. The first public showing of Altered States left its audience bewildered, not only by the film's imagery, but by the physical sensations that accompanied it. The rapid strobe-like visuals and kaleidoscopic sequences produced unexpected aftershocks among viewers. Several recalled a trembling flicker in their peripheral vision that seemed perfectly synchronized with the film's experimental soundbed. Others felt a cold shiver sweep down their arms during the sensory deprivation scenes, describing the deep frequencies as if they were passing directly through bone. During the climactic transformation, witnesses experienced what they described as a collective recoil, a sudden backward jerk, as though a pulse of force had burst from the screen. Projection notes for that night mention a subtle visual shimmer during the sequence, though no such distortion was ever recreated. Some audience members insisted they heard a layered undertone, a sharp, metallic vibration hidden beneath the soundtrack that does not appear in any archived mix. The most debated testimony concerns a dark shape glimpsed behind the protagonist at the height of his metamorphosis. Though effects artists deny ever creating such an element, several viewers described the same vague silhouette. Shortly after the premiere, the studio reduced the brightness of several scenes and trimmed certain audio peaks. Officially, these adjustments were for viewer comfort, yet no public explanation addressed why so many attendees believed they saw something unintended. Fact 15. Brainstorm 1983. At its earliest premiere, Brainstorm produced reactions that went far beyond curiosity about its ambitious premise. The moment the film shifted into its high-clarity experience sequences, viewers reported a disorienting internal pull, something like a sudden tightening behind the eyes, as though their perception had slipped half a step out of sync with the room. A number of witnesses mentioned a thin, shimmering ring that felt more like a vibration inside the skull than anything projected from speakers. People seated close to the screen stated that the edges of the frame appeared to stretch outward for an instant, as if the image were attempting to break free of its boundaries. Others rose abruptly from their seats, unable to steady themselves, convinced the brightness had surged in a way the projector never showed. Most puzzling were the claims of a razor-quick flash, a moment so brief no one could describe it, yet several attendees remember seeing it with certainty. This flash is not present in any surviving print. In the days after the premiere, MGM technicians quietly revised sections of the audio, citing refinements, though they never specified what had been corrected. Those who attended swear the later theatrical release lacked an element they had felt rather than seen, a startling, immersive intensity that vanished along with whatever brief anomaly appeared only that first night. Bonus fact: 2001, A Space Odyssey 1968, unreleased Cinerama test screening. Long before 2001, A Space Odyssey became cemented in cinematic history. An early Cinerama test screening took place, a showing attended only by a small group of technical staff, studio representatives, and a handful of invited guests. The accounts from that night describe an experience that felt strangely intrusive, as though the film exerted an unfamiliar pressure on the audience. During the Dawn of Man sequence, several viewers reported that the air in the auditorium grew unnervingly dense, making it feel as if they were moving through an invisible thickness. Some described an underlying vibration accompanying each appearance of the monolith, a subtle tremor, detectable more through the body than the ears. The reactions intensified during the Proto-Stargate passage. While modern audiences recall the sequence as hypnotic and abstract, attendees of the early screening recounted overwhelming sensory confusion. A number of them said the sweeping colors warped at their edges, shifting in shape depending on where they focused. Others claimed that among the rushing visuals, they glimpsed indistinct faces, blurred, distant, and haunting, none of which appear in any surviving cut. One viewer reportedly fled the auditorium, believing she recognized a fleeting landscape that matched recurring dreams she'd had for years. Following the sequence, witnesses described a heavy, unnatural silence, a vacuum-like stillness that clung to the room before the soundtrack resumed. Projection notes referenced density anomalies and unusual light blooming, though no precise technical explanation was recorded. Within days, Kubrick shortened the sequence, altered the sound levels, and removed several shots without noting the specific reasons. Publicly, these adjustments were framed as creative refinements. Privately, those who attended insist that the original cut provoked reactions too intense to be shown publicly, a version of 2001 that reached too far beyond the edges of its own reality. These screenings, scattered across different decades and different studios, share one unspoken thread. Each premiere left behind a trace that official records quietly ignored. Whether it was a moment of impossible imagery, a sound no system claimed to generate, or a shift in perception that rippled through an entire audience, these anomalies lived only in the rooms where they occurred and were never allowed to reappear. As the films evolved through edits, remasters, and re-releases, the raw strangeness of those first encounters slipped out of the public eye, preserved only in fragmented recollections and half-forgotten notes. If you want to continue uncovering these buried moments, lost cuts, anomalous screenings, and the hidden history of sci-fi cinema, then stay inside Vaulted Futures. More files remain sealed. More accounts wait in the dark.